Pirelli and Tchouaméni to leave amid interest from Arsenal and Liverpool. Manchester City and KDB will have a major scan on his hamstring injury next week to show how the recovery process is going. That is your gossip, rumor, and innuendo. And that means for the final half hour of the show, bang, is my man, Niko Moreno.
What is going on, John? ATL, family of SDH. We are back, baby.
Yes, you are, and we got a bunch of game ones to get into, and we were doing the math this morning, and I think we ought to remind folks how you feel about the idea of the best of three. We were doing the math, best of three in the opening round, and then singles all the rest of the way, only guarantees you a maximum of 33 games or 33 episodes in this television series called Major League Soccer for Apple TV. If you did home and away, if you did 2 legs aggregate all the way through to MLS Cup final, you would have 31 episodes of this television series. So you'd only have 2 that were different. You'd have 2 less if you went home and away aggregate as opposed to best of 3 and then singles. What have you thought about the best of 3 so far?
Look, I've had mixed feelings about it. I still don't love it. It just doesn't feel natural to me. To be frank, I also think that it lessens the importance of game one. I get it, right? I mean, it should be important because now you go into game 2 with the possibility of sweeping the series, if we're going to use a baseball term here. But at the end of the day, once a certain point happened, I thought that a lot of teams just started downshifting and taking players off and just maybe managing the rest of the game rather than before where you had an aggregate and you knew that you had to, in some ways, try to find a way back in that first game, battle it in, and then have a closer result for game 2, right? So I thought that I still don't have that same suspense, the same need to watch that game 1 together with game 2. Now it just seems like, all right, you lost your game 5-2, like let's say LAFC. It's okay. We're going to reset, start from zero. You're going to be able to reshuffle your players, figure it out, try to get a winning game 2, right? I don't like the disconnect. The other thing that I don't like watching the calendar is how these things are going to play out. If Seattle, let's say, they beat Dallas and they go, they sweep the series, how long will they have to wait before their next game, right? And that break, that stoppage for players' rhythm and momentum and everything else that kind of comes with playoff soccer or playoff any sport, you just don't have that, right? Once you wait too long, you kind of lose a lot of that excitement, if you will. So I'm not in love with it. I'm trying to give it a chance. The positives are that we've seen a lot of open play. Teams have not been cagey or pragmatic. And even if they were being a little pragmatic, like Sporting Kansas City, they did it with a little bit of a twist and being able to push out their fullbacks and being able to counter teams and really provide some effort towards being an offensive squad. So that part's been good. Lots of goals, entertaining games, yes. But I think that the soccer component and the passion component do get damaged by this 3-game series.
And right now, including the wild card plus ones, we only have the one result with a lower seed knocking off a top seed in these match day ones, where Sporting came in and took all caps to the woodshed in their first go round. Not necessarily a surprise that you have the dominance from all of the home teams here in match day 1.
No, absolutely not. One, because the home teams, yes, the home field advantage is important. But if you look at a lot of these games as well, especially in the West, a lot of the home teams, what are the heavy favorites? A lot of these home teams had the better closing of the MLS season. If you go to the East, same thing. So yeah, no surprises, not just because of the home component, but because of the fact that a lot of these teams were in very good form.
When it comes to match day ones leading into match day twos, what team that won in match day one concerns you the most in match day two? I guess what I'm asking is, how many of these series do you anticipate going to a match day three when we come out the other side and we talk about it again next week?
There's quite a few, because I do think that a lot of the score results were a little bit circumstantial. So a lot of them. And let's start with the big rivalry between St. Louis City and Sporting Kansas City. I stuck with St. Louis City when it came to my analysis and who I was going to take in this series. And I do believe that although it's going to be in blue hell, or sorry, HE double hockey stick.
No, you're good, brother. That's a word that doesn't get us the explicit rating. You're good.
All right. Well, that I think that even though it's over there, I think Cornell is the coach that is extremely smart. I think he's going to shuffle things a little bit. His approach might be different. I thought Joe Klaus was a little bit too far away from goal. They did not seem as connected when it came to transition. I think in this one, regardless of the big push of that first game and how the team might feel like they have a huge chip on their shoulder, I think St. Louis could really do some things to get back at Sporting Kansas City and make it a series of three, kind of flip the script on them, put the pressure on that squad. They're the ones that have to close it out. They're the ones that are going to have to come and, take it from us because they're at home, and use that to their advantage, maybe take the air of that stadium by pushing back, letting the clock be their friend, and then all of a sudden just attack on the counterattack. Even Red Bulls, FC Cincinnati, I thought Red Bulls had several chances early in the game to change the game. They just don't have that quality. Luquinhas had a couple of looks. Manuel had a couple of looks. I thought that at one point of the game, had they scored one of those and been able to go back to play the way Red Bulls do, they could have managed that game. Now, they made too many mistakes, too many easy goals for a team like Cincinnati. But I thought that they had the right idea. They came to play. They came to fight. They made it difficult. So I even think that game can go a three-game series. And LAFC, that game is very odd. First 45 minutes is back and forth, and it's even as it can be. 2-2. LAFC was doing their thing with Buanga, getting out wide, being quick. Vancouver, on the other hand, with Kuba's back, I thought they controlled the midfield very well, and they were able to get forward. They utilized set pieces. I love what Drubgol was doing, same as White. So I thought it was a pretty even game. Then in the second half, one thing leads to another. You get a couple of unusual mistakes on set pieces by Vancouver, and LAFC, a team that had not been very effective on set pieces, takes some of those chances, is able to get ahead in the score, and then game over. But I think in Vancouver, with this new format that allows you to just reset and not worry about what happened in game one, I think Vancouver can win game two and put a little bit of pressure on LAFC for that last game.
Is Dallas done with Velasco out?
Yeah, I think Dallas was done even with Velasco. No offense to Velasco or Dallas. That's a huge blow. And interestingly enough, when Velasco went out, I actually thought that the midfield was able to pressure better. A lot of the mistakes that resulted in a couple of Jesus Ferreira's chances in front of goal came in after Velasco left. Not because Velasco wasn't doing certain things, but I think Pamako, being more of a box-to-box midfielder or a guy that might need to give you a little bit more of that effort and push and runs rather than a guy like Velasco that's more of a creative player. I thought they put Seattle in some difficult positions. So the real problem with Dallas, yes, of course, losing a guy like Velasco, that's a game changer and someone that can amplify what you do offensively is a problem. But the biggest problem with this team was just coming into the season and the way they finished the tournament, they're just not consistent, and they have no fight. And that midfield, a lot of times, doesn't have a player that's a real disruptor, and they allow the other teams to just carry the ball with a lot of ease. And we had the discussion during the game with some media members. There is no real leader in that Dallas team. And for playoffs and games like this, sometimes you need a guy that's going to have the knife at his teeth and is going to be able to just do the dirty work, is going to be able to get everybody going. And they don't really have that person. Because if you look at that squad, that roster, they have some talented players. Yes, Jesus Ferreira. Yes, Paul Arriola. Absolutely. Yes, Ijaramendi, right? But none of those guys, when I look at those last 10 games, not just playoffs, there isn't a real leader in that group that could really get this team through some tough, adverse times. And I think they're in an adverse position, even going back home. So because of that, that was the biggest problem. It wasn't just Velasco.
So then who for Seattle has the garra that we like to talk about when you have those kinds of moments when you want to have the knife between your teeth?
Oh, there's a ton. I mean, Joao Paulo's one of them. You've seen Yemar Gomez Andrade. He is making sure that he's getting into it with Jesus Ferreira when he was coming in hard on Alex Roldan. He's that physical presence. You got a guy like Nicolas Todero coming in from the bench, changing the game. He really did. And Brian Spencer admitted it. As soon as I brought in Nico, he was an immediate game changer. He's got that magic. He's got that leadership. Anybody in that bench right now, because of the way Brad Spencer is setting up for these games, you still got Raul Ruiz there too. So whenever you have those guys that are those OGs that have been there, done that, look what I can do, just check my record, it just gives the rest of the team a lot of that ease of, hey, man, we got these guys coming off the bench. They could be starters. So I think Seattle, without a doubt, they're the most experienced team in the West. Jerarquía is what we say in Spanish. Those teams that can win it just by the crest and the colors of that shirt, they have that. And they got a lot of those players in that team as well.
How much more do you think Nico Ladero has left in the tank as a player in Major League Soccer?
2 years easy.
Okay.
2 years easy. And I say that without even thinking twice. I think that I've been very fortunate to follow his career from day one here in Seattle to today. And I can tell you that there are not many, if any, players that I've seen be as disciplined, committed, and honestly impressive when it comes to taking care of their body, their day-to-day, what they eat, what they take, how they train, when they train, their rest hours. Absolutely everything about the way Nico handles his day-to-day life tells me that he could give you another 2 years. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to be a 2,600-minute starter anywhere else. He could. Obviously, there's been time goes by and Father Time's undefeated, so he's lost a step from Nico from 2016, but I think that under a specific system, he can be extremely effective. And he has at least 2 years of a Nico that could be a real contributor for absolutely any team in MLS.
Just asking. As I rub as I rub my chin.
Yeah, well, Gonzalo knows him well, Gonzalo knows him well, and if there's someone that Nico also respects and would love to play for, I wouldn't doubt it'd be for a guy like Gonzalo, and a guy who's always trusted him in Garth Lagerwey. He had nothing but great things to say about Garth Lagerwey when he departed, as well as when he came back and he was in Seattle. So yeah, maybe you're onto something here.
just rubbing my chin a little bit, just kind of put the thinking cap on, rub my chin. I figured I would ask, how he might do in the Eastern Conference. Just thought I would put that out there.
Okay. I like it. I like the way you think, man.
4-5, Benny Ball and RSL. What have you thought so far?
Hey, that's one of the games that I wanted to watch, right? Houston is the Columbus of the West, right? I mean, they're the team that you need to watch, that you want to watch, that they're fun, they're free. They're fast and furious. I mean, it's really a squad that's been dominant as well. This game, 2-1 scoreline, you might think it was close. It really wasn't in terms of possession, in terms of creating moments, goal expectations, winning duels. I thought Hector Herrera had a fantastic performance. He's, as I said, a guy that's taking this leadership role to a whole new level, and he's playing as good as I've seen him play in Atletico Madrid, as good as I've seen him play for El Tri, and that's really made a difference. That also has to do with those surrounding him in that midfield. I've said that you do win games in the midfield. People are like, no, you win games in the final third. So look, you can't win games if you don't control the game, and you control it with the midfield. Whenever you got Arthur, Herrera, and a guy like Coco Carrasquilla in the midfield, you have a lot of control. You have a guy like Arthur that, he's going to disrupt, he's going to defend, he's going to take care of business in the back, give you a lot of freedom. You got a guy like Hector Herrera that's going to be box to box, that's going to be touching absolutely every ball that Houston had in connections. I heard he had over 140 passes in that game. I mean, he was just unbelievable. His spacing, his movement, and then the ability to just finish in front of goal, being that guy that comes in a late run into the box and is able to get that ball from Coco Carrasquilla, control it, put it away. That tells me quality. That tells me a lot of things about this Houston team. The game went as I expected it. I even thought I maybe gave you a little bit more than I kind of expected for this team. But regardless of, I do believe that Houston will close it in the second game.
All right, so let's go to the East and take a peek at what you're seeing there. Obviously, you know which one I'm going to talk about last. But let's get into Orlando and Nashville. And, I could do this segment as Gary Smith, asking you the questions in my Gary Smith voice. But, you look at – I mean, it would be the most Orlando thing if Oscar gets – if some reason they don't make it through this opening round. Oscar's out of contract at the end of the year. Some of the front office guys are out of the contract at the end of the year, and they let Oscar go. If they lose this first round match, I could see that happening. I don't see it happening because of how they've clamped down on Hani Mukhtar, and Sam Surridge apparently wants to send the ball into the concession stand from short range as opposed to being clinical and putting it in the back of the net.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Another thing I would add is how comfortable they look just holding the ball and possessing it and telling Nashville, we're in no hurry to get where we need to get. We're going to move this ball side to side. We have a great midfield. We got guys that are ready to push out wide. We got speed with Angulo on one side. We got creativity with Facundo Torres in the other. So we're just comfortable with the ball. And they made Nashville have to stretch out a little bit just to go and get the ball. I thought that for the most part, Nashville was also good defensively, but you cannot be that naive and allow Wilber Cartagena to just walk into the front of the 18 and just take a shot. I mean, Cartagena gave you that soccer version of respect my jumper. Oh, you're not going to come out and try to put a hand in my face? I'm going to hit you with this 3. And that's what he did. He literally walked to the top of the 18, looked up, and gave you a banger. And there was nothing, absolutely nothing that Willis could do to get onto that ball. So I just believe that Orlando going into this matchup has a bigger tool set. They just have more ways to win the game. They have more players that can be difference makers rather than a Nashville squad that is always, they're well structured, they're disciplined, they're going to make it difficult. They have great leaders in that midfield with Godoy and even Dax McCarty at some point, Zimmerman and Shaq Moore and all of these players that have a lot of game experience and they can really handle games. But when it comes to talent, when it comes to being able to change the game at a moment, this Orlando team just has too much talent.
New England and Philly, and by all accounts, Clint P.A. has said that Carlos Gil is fine. after the nasty knock that he was given. I'm not going to say took. It was given by Philly. And no card, no nothing on the injury to Carlos Heel. And players basically, and Jason talked about it yesterday. Jason said it reminded him of the All Valley tournament in the Karate Kid movie where the Cobra Kai are cheering when Johnny Lawrence is taking out Daniel LaRusso. I mean, literally, you got the Cobra Kai SC. Here we go. You may as well call Philadelphia Cobra Kai SC for everything that they're doing. They injure Carlos Heel. He leaves. Philly gets match 1. What do you think about match 2 with the Revs and Cobra Kai?
Sweep the leg, huh? I think that you expect this from the Union, right? Especially in a game where if you're talking about talented players, especially in the final third, New England has the better players in that end, right? They got guys like Hill, like Chancellor has been amazing. Gustavo Bo kind of feels like he's playing for a contract elsewhere, or whoever's watching this game. So he's been really good. But at the end of the day, it all goes back to having a team that believes the structure, that has been there, done that, some of that dark magic, some of those things that you do to bring a game on your side. So because of that, I think the Union will take this series. Now, the Revolution showed me a lot of things when it came to this one. I think before that PK that VAR takes, New England was really pushing, and they were finding spaces, and they were driving the ball. I thought their movements in the final third found space behind Martinez. That's another guy that I feel like he's maybe lost a step. So with that said, and also Damian Lowe can be a liability. I think New England knew it, and they went right at that side between Harold and Lowe. They wanted to attack that end. They wanted to go with Chancellor. So I think that they could do some of these things here in the second game and make it a 3-game series. Then it could be anybody's game. But if I really had to make a choice, the Union, because of that foundation that has been so strong for the last decade, and a team that knows each other very well, and a midfield that I think has more ability to control this game, they're going to end up winning it. I'm just not – it's not that I'm not a fan. I just don't think that midfield for the New England Revolution with Kay and with Polster is built for a 3-game series. And that's the reason why I think the Union, despite their Cobra Kai ways, I think that they will end up taking this series.
All right, let's wrap up with the last one. And it ended up last night, match week 1, or match days 1, however you want to phrase it, with Atlanta and Columbus. Atlanta, you got to see how much Thiago Almada means to this group, and it came down to individual moments where you can't get beat in transition, and Cucho goes short side, makes it 1-0. Then you end up with a penalty in the box. He converts it. It's 2-0. You're out the door. But once again, we always remind folks the way that this current playoff structure is, it's a best of 3. You take that one, you wipe it away. You come back Tuesday night here in Atlanta for game number 2. What do you think about Atlanta and crew?
I was a little disappointed in Atlanta's inability to possess the ball a little more and create more opportunities. I knew that without Almada, Gonzalo was going to play a 3-man back line, but I didn't expect them to get so pushed back into their own third. They got pinned back by a Columbus squad that had no problems, even after the 1-0 score, leaving that back line really high, allowing Camacho to be a guy that can control the ball, that can push it, knowing and understanding that with the distributors they have in the midfield, they were able to control the tempo. And Atlanta just never got it back. And that was a huge problem. Now, I'm no Gonzalo Pineda, and I know that he knows this team better than anybody. And he, like I said, I've always said, he's a genius when it comes to it. But you tell me, how many times has Hernandez played as a center back in a 3-man formation this year for Atlanta. I can't recall how many times he's done it, but he looked out of sorts. He seemed out of position. He seemed to get too wide at times, too tucked in other times. That first goal with Cucho, there's no way that he has that much space before he takes that very first touch, and he takes you so long to go and try to get him back, try to recover from your positioning, because Cucho is just too strong and he is too talented. He's not going to need to cut back and use that right foot because he can shoot it with both. And maybe that's what the defender thought he was going to do, and he didn't. So I just thought positionally, very undisciplined from Atlanta. I'm not used to that. Maybe, like I said, not having Almada makes you think twice, makes you having to do a lot of things. I thought Mayomba, he also put himself in a really bad position, right? Matan had everybody in the defense with a big headache. Oops, sorry. With a big headache. And once you get the yellow card, then you're just playing a different ball game because you know that you don't want to get that second. I thought that the midfield just wasn't ever in this game, and that was the big problem.
And come back here on Tuesday night, and we'll go through match day 2. You get your starting lineup back. You're going to go back to your 4-3-3. Almada's going to be a part of the lineup, and it'll be the track meet will be interesting at Mercedes-Benz for match number 2 in match day 2.
You just got to force Columbus to defend. You can't have them be that comfortable. You need to put them in. You got to make them uncomfortable. They're going to be comfortable with the ball. They're going to be comfortable if you're deep in your own end. And if you don't push, and again, the fullbacks yesterday were also very ineffective in when they were getting the ball and how they were getting the ball. And when you don't got that width and you're just allowing Columbus to play on your half, it's just a no-brainer. They're going to win that game. So with Thiago Almada, I expect this Atlanta team to be a lot more aggressive and make this Columbus team defend.
And, when you've also got, when you're in that 4-3-3, once again, I think it's a more comfortable thing. They've gone to 3 at the back a couple of times, and they've done the 5-3-2, 3-5-2, however you want to phrase it, but they seem to be more comfortable at home in that, 4-3-3, 2 center backs. You're looking at Brooks. It's Brooks and Miles and Luis Abram, who has been great this season.
Yes.
And this is the Cruz Azul Luis Abram that I think folks were looking for. And Caleb Wiley. For me, it will be interesting to see how a front-footed Atlanta United team will be in match day 2 here on Tuesday, and getting all of that swagger back that you're used to seeing with the push. And there's also nothing wrong with a tactical foul. There's nothing wrong with if somebody's blowing by you to sit there and, you grab them, you sit there, you spin them. It's a do-si-do. You get a foul, you get a card, fine, great, cool, but you've slowed the attack down. But
Hernandez, he's not usually the guy that he goes for in that back line of 3, is he?
No, it is. It depends on the speed of the team. It's either Hernandez or Purata, but Hernandez has been the one that, because of the athleticism shown by the clubs that they're facing, you need Ronald's speed to go back and forth. Purata can be that more static defender in 3 at the back. His get back is not matching Ronald's, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. I just thought he was out of position. The entire game, and he just looked uncomfortable. I also think that he had a lot to do with the way Columbus was playing and how far Aiden Morris was able to come in, the movement that Matan was making. I mean, if you saw Matan and Juan Camilo Cucho, the way they were shifting, and Juan Camilo was out wide, then he was pushing back in. There's that gorgeous ball from Cucho all the way to Gressel that should have been goal number 1, but Gressel finds it, and I have no idea why Gressel, instead of cutting inside and shooting on goal, he pushes out wide and allows the defender to get back to him.
Caleb finally took Julian Gressel's lunch money. Go ahead.
No, Gressel allowed him to get there. Gressel should have shot it or gone right on goal, but he pushes out wide. I thought that was a mistake on Gressel, but that movement, that ability from a guy like Cucho, and that's what I'm not kidding you, that Cucho Hernandez is the most talented forward in MLS. No one could make those sort of passes and still be that type of killer in front of goal and be able to move all around that front side. I mean, he's just so good. But I think that was the difficulties that Atlanta had, was just positioning. Also credit to Columbus because of the movement they had.
All right, so what's going on at Pulso Sports in the Soccer Bar, my friend?
All right, well, we'll be right back here in about 40 minutes. And Soccer Bar, we're going to be talking about a lot of this. We obviously have voices from all around the league. We're going to be talking to quite a few players from this game one, this series of playoffs that I got to tell you, a lot of the Latino players are not very comfortable or happy with. They're trying to figure it out. We will also talk about Alan Velasco, what's going to happen. There's a media availability, I think, in a couple of hours. So it's going to be interesting what happens with Velasco and how things kind of play out for Dallas. But we'll talk about Dallas. We'll talk about Seattle. We'll talk about Houston. Can St. Louis come back and make this a 3-game series in Blue Hell? So it's going to be interesting when it comes to Pulso Sports. We talked to Brand Smetzer this week about how he handled everything. He didn't really pay too much attention to what Nico Esteves was complaining about the PK, about where Alex Roldan kind of threw in the ball. He kind of thought that was a game-changing moment, and it was. But I thought that the PK's there, I think his team kind of fell asleep on that throw-in, regardless of where Alex Roldan throws that ball in. So it was interesting to see Brian kind of respond to those comments. So if you want to check that out, check Pulso Sports.
All right, so finish your second cup of coffee, get your breakfast, and get ready for the Soccer Bar coming up top of the hour. As always, my friend, it's great to catch up with you on your Thursdays. We'll catch up with you after match days 2. We'll do it again next week.
All right, my friend. Thank you.
All right, that's Niko Moreno, Pulso Sports and the Soccer Bar. He's finishing up that second cup of coffee. And now let's take the tour and get you all the news that's fit to print and what is on TV before we go. All right.